Hello, my name is Joanna Brown, and I'm a member of FDA's Export Certification Team, which reviews and processes export list applications submitted through the Export Listing Module. I'll be demonstrating how to use the Export Listing Module, or ELM, and highlighting best practices. The ELM is FDA's electronic system for receiving and processing requests from FDA-regulated establishments that wish to be included on export lists. The objective of the demonstration is to illustrate how you can optimize the application process and submit successful applications. This demonstration will include the following: how to submit a new application, highlighting best practices, how to edit an application, highlighting best practices, and a summary of the enhancements and updates made to the ELM in 2021. There will be a Q&A session following the demonstration. Please note, U.S. establishments that export seafood products to the European Union and China are subject to listing requirements by these importing authorities as a precondition for market access. Industry may request to be listed via the ELM at any time, and the Export Certification Team processes ELM applications on a rolling basis. Remember, as noted on the Food Export List webpage, a complete application must be received in the ELM by the deadlines identified on the webpage to be considered for the respective quarterly update. All establishments are required to update and resubmit their ELM applications every 2 years to verify their listing information and indicate that they wish to continue being listed. Establishments that do not update and resubmit their ELM applications every 2 years will be removed from the list. To ensure that the establishment receives reminder notifications prior to an application's expiration date, we ask that you please list 2 contacts with accurate information for each application. Once listed, an establishment may edit their ELM application at any time to request an update to their listing information. The Export Certification Team generally transmits updates to these lists on a quarterly basis. However, final listing decisions are made by the competent authorities of the importing countries or regions. Products produced or shipped prior to an establishment's official listing by the importing authority may be detained or rejected. Once listed or registered on the importing country's website, U.S. establishments may contact the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, their Seafood Inspection Program, to request export certificates for U.S. seafood exports to the EU and China. Here's a screenshot of China's official website with the current list of U.S. aquatic product establishments in China. As noted, the establishments have been verified by China's competent authority, and China declares the establishments comply with Chinese laws, regulations, and standards. Also, here's a screenshot of the EU's official website with a screenshot of the current list of U.S. fishery products approved as third country establishments. Now, I'll turn to the focus of the demonstration. First, I'll demonstrate how to submit a new application. As I go through the process, I'll highlight best practices. To begin, access the ELM by clicking on the Food Export List webpage. That takes you to the Online Applications for Export List webpage. Once on the Online Applications for Export List webpage, click the FDA Industry Systems, or FIS, ELM hyperlink. This directs you to the landing page for FIS. Please note, for this demonstration, I will be using a test version of the FIS. If you need to create an account, download the step-by-step instructions for ELM. It includes steps for creating the FIS account. Once you have an FIS account, you can log in with your account ID and password. When you're logged into FIS, launch the ELM by clicking in the Registration and Listing Programs section. The ELM dashboard will display all ELM applications associated with your FIS account. Please note, first-time users won't have any ELM applications associated with their account, so the dashboard will be empty. To start a new application for an export list, click the plus and enter new application button on the right side of the screen. At any time, you can click on the question mark in the top right corner of the screen to access step-by-step instructions for using the ELM. By default, the ELM dashboard will display all the ELM applications associated with your FIS account. You can sort, filter, and rearrange the columns in the table, and the system will save these settings. If you can't find one of your applications, click Clear User Settings to reset the view and display all your applications. You can use the icons in the action column to view, edit, or delete each application. You can also click the Action Icons button for an explanation of each icon. When submitting a new application, the first screen will prompt you to identify the product type and country or region of the export list for which you wish to apply. After making your selection, click the blue Next button at the bottom of the screen to proceed with the application. Next is the Business Information section. You have three options to identify your facility in the Facility Information section. If you choose to identify the facility for listing by the Food Facility Registration, the system will display a list of all registered food facilities associated with your FIS account. You should select the correct facility for your application and click the blue Next button at the bottom of the screen to proceed. If you represent a food facility but do not see an option to identify this facility by the Food Facility Registration, you will need to associate this facility with your account. You will need your Food Facility Registration number and PIN. Making the association to your account requires exiting the ELM by clicking the FFRL's Home link, and then clicking on the Food Facility Registration link from the FIS homepage. Once the Food Facility Registration module opens, link registration to your account on the left side of the screen and enter the facility's Food Facility Registration number and PIN. For help with the Food Facility Registration, please refer to the circled information. Once you have successfully linked your Food Facility Registration to your FIS account, you can return to the ELM and use the Food Facility Registration to identify the facility. Now, if you choose to identify the facility for listing by the FDA establishment number or the FEI number, enter the FEI number and click the blue Next button at the bottom of the screen to proceed. If you choose to identify the facility for listing by the DUNS number, enter the DUNS number and click Next. You may visit FDADUNSLookup.com to search for or request a valid DUNS number. Remember DUNS numbers contain 9 digits. If your DUNS number contains a leading 0, you must enter that 0 to find the record for your facility. If there are multiple facilities associated with that DUNS number, you will have the option to select the correct name and address. If there are multiple records with the same or similar name or address, you may contact our team via our email, cifsan@fda.hhs.gov. In this example we set up for the purposes of this demo, I am using the food facility registration assigned to Joe's Exports and Imports, my fictional facility in ELM. If you decide to use an FEI number and you don't know the number for your facility, you can contact our team or visit the FDA FEI portal. The FEI portal allows the user to look up an FEI number based on a firm name and address. After identifying the facility, the business information page will display. If you identify the facility using a food facility registration, this section is pre-populated from the parent company section of the food facility registration module. If you used an FEI number or a DUNS number, this section is not pre-populated, and you may enter this information. The Doing Business As field is optional, regardless of how you identify the facility. The main contact information is pre-populated from your FIS account. You may edit this information if needed. Notifications about this application will be sent to the email address in the system. Best practice is to use a general phone number and email address to ensure that our team can reach somebody at your facility about this application. I'll discuss facility information for listing in the next example. The inspection details section is optional. If your facility has been inspected by FDA, you do not need to complete this section. If your facility has not been inspected by FDA, providing the details for your most recent inspection will prevent delays in the application review process. The inspection report must clearly identify the name and address of the facility for which you're applying, the inspecting agency, the purpose of the inspection, and the inspection result. You can select Choose File or Browse button to find the document you wish to upload. You may attach a document in any of the formats highlighted in the screen. After you've selected the document, click the Upload button. If the document was successfully uploaded, you will see a confirmation message. Then click the blue Next button to proceed. Use the Additional Documents section to upload any additional documents that are required for review of your application. Best practice, upload your current third-party audit letter from NOAA or a recognized third-party auditor by China to demonstrate compliance with Chinese laws, regulations, and standards. If you do not have the updated letter at this time and your current letter is set to expire, save and exit the application and work with NOAA to get the updated audit letter or other evidence of third-party certification. Then come back and complete the application. You may identify an additional contact to receive updates about this application. To ensure that your company receives system notifications and that FDA can contact your firm if needed, We strongly recommend that you identify a second contact to receive notifications about this application, in addition to the main contact identified on the first page of the application. As noted previously, you may wish to use a general phone number and email address to ensure that our team can reach somebody at your facility about this application. Best practice is to use a general email address. Then click the blue Next button at the bottom of the screen to proceed. For the product information, enter all required information. Then click the blue Next button to proceed. Note, if you indicate that one of your products is an aquaculture product, this will be indicated on the China list with an A in the remarks column. If you indicate that one of your products is a bivalve mollusk product, this will be indicated on the China list with BMS in the remarks column. Best practice is to identify products currently shipping and scheduled to ship based on contracts with buyers. Note, the correct Schedule B or HCS codes can be found by using the U.S. Census Schedule B search engine tool, which is hyperlinked in the text that displays after clicking the blue question mark icon. When using the U.S. Census Schedule B search engine, you can type in the description or name of the product to find the 6-digit Schedule B or HCS number. Remember to remove all decimals when entering the number in the field. When you add a product to the application, you'll see a product list page with all the products associated with the application. To add additional products to your application, click the plus and Add Product button. Edit information for a product, click on the pencil icon. To remove a product from the application, click on the X icon. Then click the blue Next button at the bottom of the screen to proceed. You can add as many products as needed. Please review all information you provided on your application on the application review page. If you need to correct or update any information, click the Edit button in the relevant section of the application. Click the blue Next button at the bottom of the screen to proceed with the application. Review the statement on the signature page, and if you agree, check the box labeled I agree. Then click the blue Submit button at the bottom of the screen to submit the application to FDA. Once you submit your application, you will see a confirmation page and receive an application number. Retain this number for future inquiries about your application. Next is how to submit a new application for the EU seafood export list. We return to the ELM welcome page with a dashboard of any existing applications. In this example, I'm submitting a new EU seafood application for the same facility for which I submitted the China seafood application. This is because in this scenario, this facility ships seafood products to the EU and China. Best practice is to use the same facility identifier for all the facilities listing. If listing the same facility across different country lists, use the same facility identifier and choose the same approval number across the country list. So I use the same food facility registration as I used for my China seafood application. Please note, EU facility types are different than China. So I choose the best fit based on activities at this facility. If you identify the facility using an FEI or a DUNS number, and you select freezing vessel or factory vessel as the facility type, you may choose to be listed with either the physical address or the mailing address associated with the facility's record. Best practice, identify the vessel with the address on the label or packaging of the product. This way, the address on the listing, the certificate, which pulls from the listing, and the label are consistent. In this case, the mailing and physical address are the same. Additional documents. There are no third-party audits needed for the EU. If you wish to be listed with an approval number that differs from FDA's general policy for approval numbers, you may upload a letter that includes the firm's name, address, current approval number, if applicable, and the desired approval number. For more information about approval numbers, visit Online Applications for Export List webpage. Best practice, upload a letter for the approval number change to match information currently printed on labels and packaging. It is helpful if you provide a reason as well. Best practice for content information, follow the same practice as noted for the China seafood application. Use a general office email or a different email contact than listed in the main contact section. Best practice for product information, provide the same information in these sections if the facility is exporting the same product as identified in the China seafood application. Note, if you intend to export aquaculture products, you must indicate that on your application so that your EU listing contains an AQ in the remarks column. Best practice for the review page, as noted in the China seafood application, take the time to carefully review and confirm all information is accurate. Best practice for the signature page, agree and submit. Next, I turn to some best practices for editing or revising an application. If it's an approved or returned for action, you can edit the application. If it is expired, you need to submit a new application. Select the eye icon in the action column to view an application. Select the pencil icon to edit or renew an application. Note, when editing or renewing an application, you must click through all the screens and resubmit your application to send your edits to FDA. If you no longer export from the facility, you can select the red X icon to request to delete an application. Please note that if you request to delete an application with a status of approved, it will be removed from the export list. When on the dashboard, the best practice is to filter by the status you're looking for. In this case, approved. Then select which columns you want to see to make sure the information is consistent across country lists. When editing an existing application, you will not see the product country screen and cannot edit the information. If you need to apply for a different export list, return to the ELM homepage and submit a new application. Best practice, use the same facility identifier as before. In this case, the food facility registration. Best practice for additional document section, if you want to submit an approval number change request to match information currently printed on labels and packaging, you will need to upload a document with the firm name, address, current approval number, and desired approval number please provide a reason as well. Best practice for contact information. You should review contact information and make sure you have valid current contacts identified. For example, if the person who initially set up the FIS account is no longer with the establishment, please update the account to an existing or current contact or a general account that is regularly monitored. Finally, I'll discuss some enhancements to the ELM, specifically the new facility type options for the China export list. In the Facility Information for Listings section, there is an update to the facility type field. The facility type selection affects how the facility is listed on the export list. In your ELM application, you can click on the blue question mark icon to see the options for the product type and the country region associated with your application. In your ELM application, you can click on the blue question mark icon to see the options for the product type and country region associated with your application. For China, the vessel types are cold stores, fishing vessel, fishing and factory vessel, processing plant, and transportation vessel. Best practice, you should select the facility type with a description that best fits the current operations of the facility. To end the demonstration, here is a list of resources related to export lists and importing countries listing requirements for seafood establishments. If you have any additional questions, you can contact our team, the Export Certification Team, via email at cifstanexportcertification@fda.hhs.gov or via phone at 240-402-2307. Now we'll turn to the Q&A session.
Hello, my name is Rodney Cardoso, and I am a member of FDA's Export Certification Team. I will be presenting the second part of the ELM webinar, a Q&A session. The Q&A session will address 5 frequently asked questions pertaining to the Export Listing Module, ELM. The questions will be displayed, followed by a verbal answer.
Question 1. I'm interested in exporting seafood or fishery products from the United States. Where do I go for more information about how to export?
Good question. Export certification requirements of importing countries vary widely, and many importing countries have certification or listing requirements for these products. As a first step, U.S. exporters can visit the FDA Exporting Food Products from the United States webpage or NOAA's Export Certification webpage to view a list of importing country requirements for the seafood and fishery products you intend to export. If you are working on behalf of a customer in another country, ask them, their importer, or the appropriate regulatory authorities in the importing country to verify the specific certification requirements for your products. Some export destinations like, for example, China and the EU are subject to establishment listing requirements as a precondition for market access. Firms may apply for the inclusion on these lists via the Export Listing Module. Once listed, U.S. establishments may contact the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, NOAA's Seafood Inspection Program, for the U.S. exports to the EU and China.
Question 2. If a company goes through a name change or a change in ownership, how does that impact the current and future listing?
So both the Both China and the EU require the name on the export list to match the name on the labels and other shipping documentation. If you are planning to change the name of your firm, ensure that you update the name on the export list before updating the name that appears on your labels and documentation. To avoid having your shipment detained due to the name change, make sure you check the list posted by the importing country has the updated name that will match your shipping labels and/or documentation. Update the name on the export list by editing your ELM application to reflect the new name and resubmit to the FDA.
Question 3. What should a fishing vessel use on their ELM application?
Another good question. There is sometimes confusion about what address fishing vessels should provide as facility address for food facility registration. In the interim final rule for the food facility registration, the FDA acknowledged that mobile facilities such as fishing vessels do not have fixed addresses. The FDA concluded that for mobile facilities such as vessels, the owner or operator of the facility usually has a fixed address and may include that fixed address on the registration. Firms applying to be listed that are seafood vessels have 3 options for identifying their address for listing on the ELM application. 1, if they use an ELM application, if they use the FEI or DUNS to identify the facility on the ELM application, the ELM will allow them to select the physical address associated with the firm's record in the FDA's official establishment inventory. 2, if they use the FEI or DUNS to identify the facility on the ELM application, the ELM will allow them to select the mailing address associated with the firm's record in the FDA's establishment inventory. And finally, if they use the food facility registration to identify the facility on the application, the ELM will pull in the facility address from Section 2 of their food facility registration. For more information on food facility registration, you may visit the online registration of food facilities webpage and also visit the food facility registration user guide step-by-step instructions.
Question 4. How do firms ensure their ELM applications stay up to date through changes in personnel in a way that ensures continued compliance with export list requirements?
First, firms must update and resubmit their application every 2 years to remain listed. Beginning 6 months prior to an application's expiration date, the ELM will send 3 reminder emails to the contacts listed on the application. To ensure that these reminders are received, we strongly recommend that firms specify 2 different people as contacts on the application. If the application is not resubmitted prior to the expiration date, the firm will be removed from the list. In the ELM, when you edit an application, the contact information from your FDA Industry Systems account will automatically populate in the contact information section on the first page of the application. Later in the application, you will have the opportunity to identify another contact to be notified of updates to the application.
Question 5. If a firm is removed from an export list, what should the firm do to get back on the list?
Most commonly, firms are removed from export lists because they fail to respond to a request from the FDA for more information about their ELM application or they failed to renew their application date before the expiration date. If your firm was removed from an export list, log in to the ELM and check on the status of the application. If you can't access the application for any reason, you can reach out to the Export Certification Team at CIFSAN Export Certification at fda.hhs.gov for help. If the status of the ELM application is expired, you need to reapply for the export list. Click on the pencil icon to review each page of the application and edit any information that may have changed. Continue through the end of the application and click Submit to send the application to the FDA. If the status of the ELM application is returned for action, the FDA has returned the application to you and requested additional information. The ELM will have sent an email to the contacts listed on the application with details about how to update the application. If you are not listed as a contact on the application and don't have access to this email, you can contact the Export Certification Team at CIFSAN Export Certification at fda.hhs.gov for more information. Lastly, for firms on the China seafood list, the FDA frequently returns applications for more information because the firm has not submitted the third-party certification letter required for the list. To avoid having to resubmit your application again, please double-check any applications you renewed for the China seafood export list to ensure that you have updated a third-party letter. Thank you.